Hi, I'm Boss of Skills, and today I'm going to be making a tier list of anomalies and their use cases. Um, and so I'll be breaking them into four tiers, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and the they're going to be broken into tiers based on how strong their use cases are and how many use cases there are. So, for example, um, if an anomaly is very strong on one certain unit, but it literally is only played on that unit, I probably won't put it in the top tier unless it has at least um, passable viability on other units, and that's kind of how I'm gonna go. All right, so Arcana Overwhelming, put it in tier 4. I think it's just extremely understated, and there aren't really that many use cases. Attack Expert, tier 3. I think it's relatively weak, but there are some use cases, mainly that have to do with Silvermere Dawn. And Avalanche of Armor, same thing as Arcana Overwhelming. I mean, maybe a few more use cases, but just overall, like, they're both pretty understated, and that's kind of just why they're in the bottom tier. Avarice Incarnate. And the problem with this anomaly is you never want to be sitting on 80 gold to get the advantage of it, and then a lot of times you're gonna have to be rolling to 0 to make an actual board, right? And then, you know, your anomaly is gonna be 15% damage amp. Berserker Rage, another very understated anomaly in my opinion. Yeah, you need below 50% health, and then even then it's not amazing, and most of the units that are below 50% health kind of want to heal back up, so then you'll lose your Berserker Rage anyways. Bully, put it in tier 2. This is just a very solid anomaly to take while you're rerolling. A lot of the reroll 3 costs are kind of happy to see it. Calling Card, situationally, is pretty good, so I'll put it in tier 2. I mean, mainly you just want to take it when you're trying to get +2 of something, or when, you know, you're kind of, it doesn't matter that much which one of the 2 traits you get if you're not cheesing, like, on an emissary unit, because you can't get emissary spat. So for example, if you really wanted Warden, or you really wanted Artillerist, or really wanted Sorcerer, or really wanted, you know, Quick Striker or Conqueror, you can put it on one of the emissary units, because it doesn't count unique traits. Center of the Universe, again, extremely understated anomaly. You just can't really click this in any real scenario. Comeback Story, our first tier 1 anomaly. This is pretty much useful on any unit in the game. Maybe the most flexible anomaly in the game, because it's literally just based off of how much health you lost, and it's a lot of damage amp. You know, when you have 20 health left, it's 40% damage amp, which is a crap ton, to be quite frank. It's like Radiant GS levels of damage amp. Well, I think Radiant GS is 50, but anyways, like, if you get it in like a spot where you're playing Fortune, or I guess Chem Baron in this case, and you have like the Titanic Titans augment that gives you 20 extra health, you know, you can just get more and more health. And even without that scenario, like, even if you're 40 health or 35 health or 30 health, and you're kind of getting 30 damage amp, it's still a very solid option. Cosmic Rhythm, to be honest, this is like a cool anomaly, but there's just not that many use cases of it besides like bug GP, and like full damage if you get like a Maddie from your worth the wait. But it's just also not that amazing. Call the Weak, I used to be pretty low on this anomaly. I think it's alright on Twitch with the infinite range. And I think it's also decent on Smeech, because the overflow crit doesn't convert very efficiently, but it's still bonus damage, and it gives you 100% crit, so you'll get a little bit of damage from it, and then targeting the lowest percent health enemy in range is also just pretty good. Deep Roots, generically, is like a solid augments. I think we'll see a lot more use cases for this as we get deeper into the set and people play more like melee Jace, Vi units that kind of displace your units. Um, Obviously, it counters a lot of stuff like Silver Mirror or Horizon Focus as well. Uh, but the pull part makes it actually kind of bad on melee carries in my opinion because the pull is very slow. Like the root animation is very slow, so a lot of the times your melee carry will kind of just be stuck in the middle doing nothing while the root animation goes out very slowly. And so it's just not that amazing, or not good enough to put in the top tier. Defense Expert, I think this is a very understated. It's very understated, and usually you don't want to just stack armor and MR. Like if you already have a lot of armor and MR and you're getting a lot of value out of this, then at that point you probably don't need more armor and MR, and you would get more value out of something that gives you health. Diving in, this is a pretty good anomaly for a lot of melee carries. Um, that's pretty much about it. Like Smeech, Vi, Mbessa. Units that, use the attack speed and Omnivamp well, basically. Dragon Soul. I think this is mainly just literally says if you have a Twitch, you can take it. If you don't have a Twitch, don't take it. It's like okay on other things. I mean, if you have a Fishbones on your carry, you can take Dragon Soul, obviously. But yeah, it procs once per unit, so you just want to hit as many different units as possible during the fight. So ideally, if you have Fishbones and you hit all 8 of your opponent's units or all 9 of your opponent's units at the start of the fight, you're getting the max value out of it. Dramatic Entrance is also going to be in tier 2. The stun is just very impactful. Like 1.5 second board stun is pretty good. It's basically like a 7 Revel stun. And 70% increased max health is quite a lot. It can't be in the top tier because I think there are scenarios where you'll get heavily punished for this. Like if your main tank is off the board for a while, your board might just get completely obliterated before it comes back. Also on melee carries, it's not great because you lose 6 seconds of DPS. Dual wielding, yeah, I mean it's kind of as it says, right? Usually you want to take this in like snipers or snipers like to itemize your Caitlyn, or in Black Rose to itemize your Blankheimer or Owls, whatever you're not itemizing basically. And it can be pretty good in some spots, like if you just have an like itemless 2-star carry that has traits, and like in Black Rose sometimes you might have a Heimer 2 or a Mouse 1 that doesn't have items, and you have 4 Visionary in for it. This can be pretty solid, but outside of that it's just not too exciting. Eagle Eye is going to also be in tier 3. I think it's pretty understated. I mean, you get 6 AD per 2 seconds, which is just a little bit too slow for my liking. And it takes a little bit too long to ramp. Energy absorption. This is kind of following a similar idea of like why Defense Expert isn't that good, because like if your team already has a lot of AP, the chances are you don't really need that much AP as much, and you would rather have more mana or like crit or damage amp or some other stat, just because stacking stats is not very good in TFT in general. But there are some use cases, like I think a lot of boards where you have 2 Sork Splash, it's okay because you get a little bit of bonus AP from there. Mainly just on like in Black Rose. Essence of Navari, I think this is mainly like a Malzahar or Elise carry kind of anomaly, and or maybe Silco is okay, but I don't think Silco gets enough cast off. But I think it's just relatively underpowered, which is why it's in tier 3 instead of tier 2 or tier 1. I just think it's relatively weak. Like it scales pretty slowly, and like if you think about a lot of the fights, by the time your champion casts 4 times, like your backline carry casts 4 times, the fight should usually be pretty over. Fireball, our second tier 1 anomaly. I think this is very good on most of the visionary units. Obviously, like it does a lot of damage, 7% maximal true damage, and then burn is like insanely strong every set, right? Every set, if you don't have burn, you're going to be really sad. Um, and so yeah, this is very very good in spots where like you don't have a Morello or a red buff. Even with a Sunfire cape, it's okay because Sunfire is kind of inefficient late in the game and it doesn't hit like every unit you want it to, and sometimes your Sunfire dies. Force of Friendship, I think it's kind of in the same tier as Bully. It has a little more upside because you will have spots where you're like Starry Night or your Priz Ticket and you can just go for a lot of units 3-starred, and that's kind of where this is better. Um, yeah, that's pretty much it. It's like same use cases as Bully, mainly just wants to be like reroll melee carries. Fortified, another anomaly that I think is in the top tier. I think this is the best generic tank anomaly. It pretty much outperforms giant sized on almost every unit in the game. I think maybe on like 6 Bruiser Mundo giant sized is better. Because obviously stacking max health on max health is not great versus giving base health to something that gets max health is better. But I mean fortified, you're like your unit, your main tank, if it dies within 15 seconds and doesn't get all the stacks off, like you're probably just getting shit on anyways, and that case won't be very often, so I don't think you have to worry about it that much. Freestyling, I think this will definitely be an anomaly that gets better as people sort of figure it out. I think right now it's relatively unsolved. Um, Relatively unsolved, and like people don't really know how to play like flexible boards that can kind of abuse this, but I have seen people get boards with like 11, 12, 13. I mean maybe not 13, but like a lot, 11 and 12 traits in, which 11 and 12 traits, 11 traits is basically 50%, and then 12 traits is 54%, so you're really getting up there in terms of how much damage amp you're getting, and it becomes very strong. Obviously, like those boards will tend to be a little bit weaker than if you just built like an optimal board, but like the 50% damage amp on your main carry probably makes up for it. Giant sized, I think this is, as I was saying in Fortified, I think this is usually just a worse version of Fortified, and so I'm gonna treat it as such and kind of put it in tier 2. Pretty solid generic tank element, just not as good as Fortified in my opinion. Headhunter, I think this is quite frankly one of the worst anomalies in the game. I just don't think I think the numbers on it are just very, very weak. And I'm kind of grateful for that because I don't think I'm worried that if they increase the numbers a little bit and it becomes a good anomaly, like the snowball would actually be very, very frustrating to deal with. You're gonna just gain a lot of attack speed, but right now I think it's extremely weak just because the upfront stats are very low, and unless you're in a spot where your board is really, really strong to support this anomaly and you have a lot of health so you're not worried about losing fights because your anomaly sucks, basically it's like if you're already winning the game, it helps you win it slightly more, but I think there's other anomalies that would just help you win more. Heavy hitter, this anomaly pretty much is only usable in like Bruiser Mundo, or in vertical bruises if you have like a 3-star Nunu or 3-star Rennie, something that has a lot of health. I mean there are a lot of augments like investment strategy and Ghost of Friends Past that let you get a lot of health, but I don't think it's that amazing. But it does have a decent amount of use cases. It's also like very good in the scenarios where it is good. It's just a little bit worse than an anomaly that I'll talk about later and kind of gets outclassed by it. Hunger for Power. This anomaly is still experimental for a lot of people. I think the main use cases are going to be comps where you can reroll multiple things, or comps where you reroll multiple things and maybe don't have items for them. Like an example of this would be Nocturne Akali, when you're rerolling Rel as well, or rerolling Leona as well, or whatever the case is. Rel is a little bit better because it has Conqueror, which with your Ambessa, which will give it a little bit more AD, and then your 3-star Rel will have like 180 or 160 AD, and will have a crap ton of health, and you can kind of feed it to your Nocturne. Right now, I think the use cases are a little bit too slim for me to put it higher, so I think I'll put it into tier 3. hyper velocity. I think this is pretty much mainly just a Kog'Maw anomaly. Nothing else really casts as much and or wants the attack speed as much as Kog'Maw. Because like I think maybe only Heimer casts a similar amount, and then Heimer doesn't really need like the stacking attack speed. Like attack speed is alright on Heimer, but you'd usually prefer to have like Fireball or more AP or a tank anomaly. And so I think I'm just gonna put it into a lower tier, probably tier 3, but this could definitely be in tier 4, as it's not even like the best. It's not even in the top 3 like Kog'Maw anomalies in my opinion. So I think you'd rather have like Thousand Cuts or a Scar anomaly, like Fortified Scar. Into the Unknown. I think this is one of the worst anomalies in the game. It's pretty understated for the drawback, and then also does count on the creep round, so you don't have your champion for 4-6 and 5-1, so you're playing 2 rounds down, presumably your best unit. The best use case for this is like when you're rerolling Camille or rerolling Nocturne or something, and you can put like some copy on your bench into the anomaly, and then you can combine it later into 3-star, and so you're not stacking it. But when that happens, that means you can't roll for Camille 3 or Nocturne 3 because 3 of your copies are in the void temporarily, and so you do end up kind of having to stack rounds that normally you would want to win. So I just think it's pretty weak. Invis, easily in tier 1 even after the nerfs, by far the best Camille anomaly. It's even an alright anomaly on most other melee carries in my opinion, although not as good as Camille. Like it's pretty good on Ambessa, pretty good on Nocturne. Like it's alright on Nocturne. It's not pretty good. But it has a decent amount of use cases, and it's just extremely strong on Camille. Kill streak, best Heimer anomaly in the game. There are a lot of setups for like Heimerdinger where you can just go triple damage item, and you have kill streak permanently allowing your guy to cast, and then just get infinite resets and just wipe the entire board. Yeah, I think it's also pretty decent on, Silco, even though you don't have the visionary bonus, and units obviously that just get a lot of kills. Like I think I played a backline Jace game with it, and it was pretty solid. So I just think it's a pretty solid anomaly in general, and especially good on Heimerdinger. Knockout. I think Knockout is like a worse version of Invisibility for Camille. It's slightly worse than Invis, and then I also don't really think it has that many use cases. It's like okay generically on actually most AD casters. Like I think it's okay on Twitch, kind of. I mean, it's just not that amazing on any of the units in my opinion, but it's pretty good on Camille. Laser Eyes. This is mainly for like a Mundo anomaly or an Akali. I've heard it's okay on, but I don't really see how that could be the case. It gives you burn, which is really good, and then like for Mundo, obviously if you're playing Vertical Dominator, you will get a lot of ability power, and when you get a lot of ability power, the scales off ability power, so your Mundo will deal a lot of damage.